Swiss village destroyed after glacier collapse. A natural disaster occurred in the Swiss canton of Valais. As a result of the collapse of a part of the Birch Glacier, the village of Blatten, located in the Lonza Valley, was almost completely destroyed. A huge mass of ice, rocks and mud came down from the mountains, covering about 90% of the village. According to the head of the Regional Security Service, Stefan Ganzer, the consequences of the disaster are comparable to the complete destruction of the settlement. The village was evacuated on May 19th, after geologists found a high probability of a landslide. Specialists recorded the instability of the glacier located above the settlement, which was the precursor to the tragedy. Thanks to timely measures, mass casualties were avoided. But one person is still missing. The drone footage, distributed by the Swiss TV channel SRF, shows how a powerful flow of mud and stones completely covered the houses and streets of Blatten, as well as the bed of the river Lonza. There was a threat of flooding due to possible blockage of water flows. Village Mayor Matthias Bellwald painfully stated at a press conference, "We have lost our village. It is under the rubble, but we will definitely rebuild it." Local government spokesman Matthias Ebener said an incredible amount of material had collapsed into the valley, destroying infrastructure and homes. Swiss President Karen Keller-Sutter expressed her condolences to the people of the region and emphasized that the loss of the house was a huge tragedy. Currently, the area remains dangerous and access is closed. Rescue services continue to monitor and assess the risks of repeated collapses. In the Alpine village of Blatten, Switzerland, there was a disaster. A giant section of the Birch Glacier collapsed. The flow of mud, ice and stones covered almost the entire village. Up to 90% of the territory was under the rubble. Fortunately, the locals were evacuated on May 19th after the geologists warned them. However, one person is still missing. Blatten was cut off from the outside world. Houses and roads were destroyed. The Lonza riverbed was blocked. There is a risk of flooding. Drones captured a frightening sight: empty streets and mountains of mud in place of houses. And local services shared a video of rescuers evacuating cows. The animals were taken out of the mountains by helicopters, so as not to leave them in the disaster zone. Experts estimate that more than 3.5 million cubic meters of rock broke away from the glacier, releasing energy equivalent to a pressure of 9 million tons. The force of the impact was so powerful that the village literally disappeared from the surface of the earth. The head of the Emergency Situations Service, Raphael Mayoraz, warned of an additional threat. The collapse created a glacial lake that continues to increase in volume. According to him, there is a risk of waterlogging and new destruction. The area was evacuated a few days earlier, but one person is still missing. Volcaholic reported on social network X. Several houses were completely destroyed. The streets were covered with debris and mud. The local authorities declared an emergency regime in advance and mobilized civil protection forces. This decision made it possible to promptly evacuate residents and reduce risks for the population. The flow of the glacier is rushing down the slope, raising a cloud of dust and destroying everything in its path. Rescuers continue to remove the debris and monitor the situation in the area of the incident. Blatten is a small village in the Lonza Valley at an altitude of 1,542 meters above sea level. It is surrounded by green alpine meadows and snow-covered chains of mountains with descending glaciers. About 300 people live there permanently, and in order not to make a big deal out of it, I'll tell you at once, they were taken out in advance together with their pets. Only one 64-year-old man has been reported missing. The Birch Glacier overhanging Blatt has long been a nuisance to glaciologists. Cracks were appearing more frequently and widening faster, resulting in small but significant collapses. The changes in the glacier caused regular rockfalls. Because of them and the unstable condition of Birch itself, a very important decision was made, which saved hundreds of lives. On May 17th to 19th, the village of Blatten was evacuated. The hotel, which was preparing to welcome guests for the new season, was closing. In the second half of the month, it became clear that the matter would not end well. A few days before the 20th, the glacier made a path of 17 meters long. On the night of May 23rd to 24th, Its speed doubled to 4.5 meters per day. In the morning of May 28th, before the main collapse, it reached 10 meters per day. The scientists, who were watching the glacier with both eyes open, were hoping for a favorable scenario until the last moment. There was a chance that after a series of partial collapses along the edge, the main mass of the glacier would still remain sitting on the mountain. But the glacier went down in the afternoon of May 28. Trying to describe in words what was happening is only spoiling. Therefore, by tradition, I will add a video. Personally, when watching it, I had a thought that probably a similar thing happened in 2002. In our Carmadon Gorge, the glacier took less than a couple of minutes to dump a huge mass of ice, snow, rocks, and soil at the foot of the mountain. A small fragment of birch was left at the top. The volume of material that descended into the valley is estimated at 3 million cubic meters and has been called incredible by local county officials. Along with the village of Blatten, the neighboring tiny settlement of Riu was also crushed, but it, too, was apparently completely evacuated. The collapse swept away the forest, on the slope and in the valley. A glacier that buried a village in Switzerland is now threatening flooding.The glacier that broke off in the Swiss Alps, destroying almost an entire village in the process, is now threatening the surrounding area with. But it is noted that there has been no damage yet. But the situation remains dangerous. What causes ice slides? Let's review. Ice landslides, or frozen ground landslides, are caused by a combination of factors including the presence of permafrost, freezing of water in cracks, weakening of the ground by thawing, and the effects of additional loads. Read more about the causes. Permafrost. In areas with frozen, ice-covered landslides are often caused by ice layers in the ground that increase in volume when frozen and weaken the ground. Freezing of water in cracks. Water that penetrates rock cracks freezes, increasing the volume and widening the cracks, which reduces the strength of the ground. Soil weakening. When ice melts, water interlayers in the ground increase, weakening the top layer and increasing its moisture content. Additional stresses. Seismic shocks, explosions, improperly executed construction work, and deforestation can also contribute to landslides. Rock weathering. Weathering of hard rock can also weaken the soil and make it more susceptible to landslides. Overwatering. Heavy rainfall or malfunctioning water and sewer lines can contribute to overwatering of the soil and increase its mass, leading to landslides. Slope scour. Water undermining a slope can also increase its steepness and weaken the soil, resulting in a landslide. Rock alternation. Clay and sand and gravel alternation can contribute to landslide formation. Human activities. Blasting, construction, and improper agricultural practices can also be factors that trigger landslides. The slope collapse of accumulated snow mass is usually provoked by climatic reasons. Sudden weather changes, including atmospheric pressure and air humidity variations, rains, heavy snowfalls, as well as mechanical impacts on the snow mass, including rockfalls, earthquakes, causes of avalanches. Snow, falling as precipitation, is held on a slope by the frictional force. Its magnitude depends on a number of factors, including snow moisture and slope steepness. The physics of the process is simple. An avalanche occurs at the moment when the pressure force of the snow mass begins to exceed the frictional force. The most favorable for avalanche formation are slopes, with steepness of 25 to 45 degrees. But avalanches have been known to occur on slopes with steepness of 15 to 18 degrees. It is believed that a slope of 15 degrees with a snow depth of 15 centimeters can be avalanche prone if a number of conditions are met, such as a thaw, which melts the snow, followed by frost, which creates an icy slope, and then a heavy snowfall. As a result, a snow mass is formed lying on the ice slope and ready to fall down. To prevent accidents and deaths, those who are in conditions of increased avalanche danger, fans of skiing and especially freeride and backcountry skiing, should observe avalanche safety measures. Avalanche control service workers recommend to take into account the 5-point scale forecast when going to the mountains, to ski in a group and not to go to dangerous areas without knowledge of avalanche safety basics.